All righty. Sound is good. Excellent. There we go. Hello, YouTubers. TikTok. TikTok's actually ready. Let's see, though, if the microphone works. That can be an issue. My neighbor was already giving me some voice techniques to practice because apparently one of the ways you strain your voice, which I have no idea, when you do shows like this is not breathing when you're talking. I'm not sure I can do it, but you have to breathe more when you're talking, like in the front of your mouth, and not be, I don't know, holding your, I don't even know. I don't quite understand how to do it. She did give me a little thing to practice. You have to practice blowing bubbles in water with a straw, and you have to get the air. It's crazy. Yeah, really wild stuff. Anyway, but I did make the appointment with an ENT, not till next week. Of course, America's socialized medicine. The first doctor I called, which was kind of fascinating, was appointment in October. I was like, an appointment in October? It's June. Like, seriously? Yeah. So I did find other doctor available in a week. I was like, all right, thank you. Anyway, welcome, guys. Welcome, TikTokers. Welcome, Discord. Welcome, YouTube. How are we guys doing today? It is Wednesday, June 11th. Lots of news today. Lots of news. It's not a ton of Ukraine news. Some Ukraine news. Not particularly good. A lot of Trump news. So we will be talking about that. Anyway, oh, man. Because there wasn't any, Slade, that's why we don't talk about a Ukrainian attack on civilians, because typically you don't have Ukrainian attacks on civilians, whereas Russians do civilian attacks every day, and it's on purpose. That's why we don't talk about it. So where's my little... Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Lee. Hey, Bjorn in Sweden. Good to see you. Yep, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys passed today. So very sad. Anyway, so welcome, guys. Yeah, so basically what we do on the show, we talk about the latest news. We start with the U.S. news and then move over to the Ukraine news. Thank you, Spider. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Betsy. There you go. I mean, my background is it's media, politics, law, Washington, D.C., government. I've worked here for 40 years. I have a law degree from Georgetown, have a master's in foreign service from Georgetown as well, which is international relations, international public policy, really. It's governance. And I try to break through the chatter to give you a sense of what's really going on in the news. So thank you, Milko, for the gifts. Thank you, Fee, or Philly. Fee, maybe. Thank you, Lee. So with no further ado, we'll get rolling here. Please do keep the gifts coming. Your gifts pay the bills. So thank you on TikTok for all of those. Hey, Gail in the UK. And let's get rolling. We've got a lot of American news today, actually. Like a ton, but it's important stuff. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Milko. Trump, this was interesting from CNN. Trump has told the Israeli prime minister to end the war in Gaza and stop talking about attacking Iran. This fascinates me. Granted, Donald Trump, I trust about as far as I can throw him, right? So there is that aspect of Trump news, but it's still very interesting that it's just very interesting. Clearly, the White House wants the message out there that they're telling Israel to stop and wrap up Gaza. That's interesting. That they're telling Israel not to attack Iran or stop talking about attacking Iran is interesting. You know, I just think that's kind of fascinating. I'm not sure what's going on because the next story we're going to talk about is Iran and how it actually looks like things are getting worse. So the idea of Trump not wanting war with Iran, maybe. I will say there's one interesting thing with Trump. Oh, the mic champ. Thank you, Carrie. That mic thing is always cool. Only the last couple of days I noticed it does gifts down here and stuff too. The only possible counter argument to Trump going to war with Iran is clearly Trump does not like to use American military power. Trump especially doesn't like us getting into wars. I mean, he supposedly doesn't. I don't know. Hey, Pin, though, I'm a little confused about this, right? Because I kind of feel like Trump doesn't like wars against people he doesn't care about. He doesn't care about the Middle East, generally speaking. He doesn't care about the Russians. He likes the Russians. Iran, who knows? Because of the nuclear thing, he may not like Iran. I don't know, but it's interesting. It's interesting because at the same time that he's telling the Israelis to like lay off and stop threatening Iran, lots of stuff suggesting things aren't going so well. Trump said today that he is less confident in reaching a deal with Iran. He did a podcast interview, says he's pessimistic about preventing Iran from acquiring nukes. This quote from Trump is classic Trump. Listen to what Trump said. So I have to put the wig on for this one because it's such where is it? There we go. It's such a Trump sentence. Listen to this. I'm getting more and more less confident about reaching a deal with Iran. He's getting more and more less confident. Who talks like that? I'm getting more and more less confident. How about I'm getting less confident, or I'm getting decreasingly confident, right? Or increasingly skeptical. But he's getting more and more less confident about reaching a deal with Iran. I read that and I was just going, dude. He said, Iran seems to be delaying, and I think that's a shame. I'm less confident now than I would have been a couple months ago. Let's see. I mean, who knows? Let's see. Axios, the U.S. is evacuating non-essential staff from the embassy in Baghdad and family members of military personnel from several bases in the Gulf amid growing concerns about the security situation. Axios says the unusual steps are taking place ahead of a crucial round of nuclear negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, and amid threats made by Tehran to launch missiles against U.S. military bases in the region in retaliation for any attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Israeli officials say the Israeli Defense Forces have been on extremely high alert in recent days for possible escalation with Iran. Trump set a 2-month deadline for a deal with Iran that is expiring this week. Having said that, Trump's a taco, right? Trump always caves on everything. So I'm not necessarily convinced that Trump's deadline is going to run out and he's going to say, oh, now we're going to go to war with Iran. He caves on everything. Even the China stuff, he's caved. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So I don't know. Certainly the U.S. is worried about what's coming next. I don't know, though. Let me see what else we got here. Gitmo. So different news. Trump is planning, or at least thinking of putting illegal immigrants that he arrests. He's thinking of putting them in Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay. It's a U.S. military base in Cuba, most famous for being a really nasty prison that we used for terrorists and others from the Middle East. The idea of putting, innocent in the sense of people who aren't criminals. They're talking about literally somebody who's here illegally. They overstayed their visa. They're going to put them in Gitmo. Now, they're saying they're not going to be permanently in Gitmo. They're going to be temporarily there until they send them somewhere else. But they're talking about doing this to friendly European countries, to people from Europe. They're talking about doing this to Ukrainians who are here, because they had to escape the war and they're here on the special visa. Now, maybe they overstayed their visa, but still, I'm kind of, that's right. Oh, that's right. Ash, actually, Amanda, if you can, I was going to say, because Ash is gone a little bit today. Not gone. She's coming a little bit late, as you know. So make sure thank you, Big Hawk. Make sure we got some folks on TikTok paying attention. So thanks, Big Hawk, because Ash said she's going to be late. It's the cruelty of it. Again, you guys know this. I'm not terribly sympathetic on people being here illegally. I'm not. But, Callum was telling me how we're going into foster homes and grabbing children and deporting them. Children in foster homes who don't have parents? Like, really? This kind of stuff. We're taking Europeans and Ukrainians who, okay, if they overstayed their visa, they shouldn't be here. But they're not criminals in the real sense of the word, right? They're not robbing banks and stuff. And we're putting them in Gitmo, which is like, one of the most horrific prisons basically that we have for super terrorists. There's a cruelty to this that goes really too far. What else we got here? There's a ton of news, like I said, today. The China trade deal. This is very weird. So Trump claims he reached a trade deal with China. I saw some indication saying the tariffs were still going to be at 55% or something, which I read earlier today. That's insane. We get most of our stuff from China. We get a ton of stuff from China. we're going to put a 55% tariff on stuff from China, like permanently 55%. So everything we buy, I mean, all of our Christmas stuff is going up 55%. Like that's just crazy talk. Trump also said, and this struck, China is going to restart the earth minerals, the rare earth minerals that they cut off, but they're only doing it for 6 months. They said in 6 months, they're going to reevaluate the deal, which was very smart of them in case Trump starts to play games again. But listen to this from Trump. Trump and Rubio were kicking out all the Chinese university students, right? And they talked about, mind you, they did it because they said what a threat it poses, that America is basically training the next generation of the Communist Party of China. We're going to let them back now because Trump reached the trade deal. Trump said, and mind you, after being told by these guys that it's incredibly dangerous to be training so many, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of Chinese students. I think it was like 500,000 or something. It was a crazy number. And we were told how dangerous it is to be training so many members of the Chinese Communist Party, right? This country that's going to be our enemy, or is our enemy in some ways, but this country that's going to be our chief global rival, right? And now Trump tweeted today, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me, exclamation point. The taco spent the last couple of weeks telling us how dangerous it was to have Chinese students in our schools. And now Trump says he was always good with it. I mean, I'm like, okay, I just like, so again, taco, I mean, on something like this, especially, you weren't saying you were stopping the Chinese students from coming because it was, because it was a trade ploy. You didn't say, well, if they're not going to trade fairly with us, their students aren't going to come here, right? You could have just said that. But again, it's not even a negotiating tactic. The negotiating tactic would be saying, fine, you don't want to be fair with us on trade, we're not going to let your students study here. You just say it outright. But to say it's incredibly dangerous to have Chinese students studying here, and then to later say 2 weeks later, it's okay, we'll let them stay. But you told us it was dangerous, so you were lying. Or it is dangerous and you don't care. But which one is it? Either way, it wasn't just a negotiating ploy, right? He told us they were dangerous, which means, big surprise here, you can't trust things Donald Trump tells you, ever, which is unfortunate. He's not just a taco. We have to find, he's a laco. A lying taco. In any case, Washington Post, a new poll by Quinnipiac, who's a very credible polling firm. Keep the gifts coming, guys. By the way, thank you, Jay Shea. I do this for a living. Your gifts help pay the bills. So please, please, please keep them coming. Washington Post, a clear majority of voters opposed President Trump's signature tax and spend legislation. This is the big, beautiful bill, as Trump calls it, that he's trying to get passed in Congress that's going to gut Medicaid, which is the health care program we have for poor people, seniors, and people with disabilities as well, are covered. He's going to gut that program. He's going to give a huge tax cut to the rich. And the poll found 53% of voters said they oppose the bill. Only 27% support it. That's pretty shocking. Other issues he's underwater on, meaning other issues where Trump is, when they ask voters, do you approve or disapprove? The majority disapprove. Immigration, disapprove, 54 to 43. Deportations, disapprove, 56 to 40. So 56% disapprove, 40% approve. Economy, disapprove, 56 to 40. That's pretty bad. Trade, disapprove, 57 to 38. So 57% of the American people disapprove of Trump's positions on trade. Only 38% agree. Ukraine war, 57% disagree with him. 34% agree with him. This is a wild poll. On Medicaid especially, just 10% of respondents said funding for Medicaid should decrease. 10%. Medicaid is, again, the program we use to provide health care. It's a health insurance program for poor people, but also some seniors get it and people with disabilities get it as well. Only 10% thought they should cut Medicaid, which they are doing in this bill. 40% said Medicaid should stay the same. 47% said it should increase. That's the plurality said Medicaid spending should increase. Listen to this. A majority of Republicans also signaled that Medicaid funding should at least remain at current levels. 56% of Republicans said Medicaid should stay at the current level. Republicans, 21% said spending should increase. Only 18% said it should decrease. So only 18% of Republicans said they should be cutting Medicaid like they are in the bill. That's very interesting. I mean, let's see what happens. But those kind of numbers are actually shockingly good. Now, what I'd be curious, though, would be if you told voters that, well, actually, Donald Trump wants to cut Medicaid and thinks it's a good idea. Then would the voters turn around and say, oh, I think it's a good idea too, right? I'd be curious to see what the poll says if you told them, well, for example, or even better, if you told them Trump's bill is going to cut 16 million people off of Medicaid, blah, 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 blah. How do you feel about that? I'd like to see it that way more directly. Thank you, Amy, to see if knowing Trump wants to do it changes their mind or not. This was my favorite part of the poll. Not Democrats in Congress fare even worse. 21% approval for Democrats, 70% disapproval, including 41% of Democrats approve of Democrats, 53% disapprove. Republicans in Congress get 32% approval. Dems have 21% approval in Congress. Let me give you Trump's first. Trump's approval rating appears to be dipping. 38% approve of the way Trump is handling his job. 54% disapprove. But Democrats are at a 21% approval. Trump's at 38%. At some point, now, okay, actually, people need to go through these poll numbers a little more carefully because I disapprove of Democrats right now. A lot of you probably disapprove of Democrats right now. We disapprove of them because they really haven't been successful at standing up to Donald Trump. And we get the sense that they haven't even figured out how to stand up to Donald Trump, right? So like, I disapprove of Democrats, but if you put me in that list, you'd say, oh, Democrats have an even worse approval than Donald Trump. Well, they have a worse approval than Donald Trump because a lot of people are pissed that they're not standing up to Donald Trump. That doesn't really mean they're less popular than Trump. It means people prefer them to Trump, possibly. People actually prefer them to Trump, but feel like they're not doing a good job. So, I mean, it's a more nuanced look, but I think clearly it's kind of tough. Oh, Andrew, what is your name on TikTok, Andrew? We'll unblock you. Thank you. You didn't have to buy a question, but thank you. I do unblock people when they ask nicely regardless, but let us know what your TikTok handle is, Andrew. And the mods can unblock you over there. So yeah, we'd have to look at the poll numbers and see. I will say this. Typically, we see Democrats with pretty bad poll numbers across the board. So, this is still very weird to me of why voters are like, oh yeah, Democrats suck. Trump is terrible, but Democrats suck. At this point, you kind of feel like there's nothing Trump could do that would convince voters that he's bad or worse than Democrats. Who is that? Oh, thank you, Spider, for the summer glass. Thank you. Thank you, Marsha, as well. I want to see if it's just the sun shining. It's fun because I've got the, I think that's what it is it? Maybe not. Oh, maybe not. Anyway, I'm playing with the light coming in. Andy Sullivan. Okay. Andy Sullivan, not to be confused with Andrew Sullivan, who's a friend of mine, actually. If somebody on TikTok wants to help Andy Sullivan come back on, that should be his TikTok handle. Oh, Ashley's saying Mr. Andrew S0034. Oh, I see. No. I see. Mr. Andrew is his name, Andy Sullivan. Yeah, go check. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that. What else we got here? Trump is unpopular around the globe. I think this is important because Republicans love to talk about how now that they're in power, America is respected around the world. And typically we're not. We're typically hated around the world. When George Bush was president, the son, George Bush, they hated us. When Donald Trump was president, they hated us. Once again, they're hating us. Let me read you this. President Trump has received mostly negative reviews across the globe, while the U.S.'s reputation has largely declined, according to a new survey conducted by Pew Research in 24 nations. Pew is super reputable. by the way. Thank you, Ash, for the gift. In 19 of the countries polled, a majority of people have no confidence in Trump to do the right thing regarding world affairs, according to the survey released Wednesday. That includes, so people who have no confidence in Trump to do the right thing. 91% of Mexicans, 77% of Canadians, 78% of the French, 81% of Germans, and 77% of Australians. I mean, we know this, but every time they go, America's finally respected, and it's like, no, they hate us and they think we're crazy. Centers for Disease Control. This is an organization run by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You remember him, the guy who doesn't believe in vaccines. He is hiring back 450 previously fired employees at the Centers for Disease Control. They remember how they fired everybody? And even initially they fired and they screwed up. Well, they screwed up even more now, apparently. They fired 450 people that they needed for like disease research and suddenly realized like, oh, well, what do you do? Anyway, yeah, Andrew, if you're not, I mean, if they're not seeing you banned, you should be fine over there. Actually, they can see if you're blocked. The only thing is, I don't know how, no, we can just Google you. Yeah. Can't you guys, Amanda, are you guys able to Google? Are you guys able to, sorry, we're trying to get somebody unbanned. Are you able to look for somebody on TikTok and unban them by their name? You have to search for them. But if she sees you, oh, she checked already. If you're not muted, you're fine. Yeah. Yeah, you should, you're not blocked. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Maluta. Ash, Amanda's got the screen name. If it's the right screen, oh no, it is the right screen name, right? You found it and it's not blocked. But did you go to his profile to see if his profile is blocked, or can only I do that? That's my question. All right, you know what? I'm going to do a quick look as well, because I'm not quite sure. I hate typing back and forth on TikTok. I wanted to see let's give a quick look, Andrew. That's Parker, I think. What was it? Andy Sullivan is your TikTok name? Andy Sullivan. No, there's too many Andy Sullivans. There's too many of you. Oh, you're blocked. You are blocked. He's blocked. Yeah. You're unblocked now. You were blocked. Basically, mods in the future, like at least maybe it's only me, I have to go look up his profile, pull up his profile, go to his page, and then I can see if he's blocked. But going through the list wasn't enough. Yeah. No, you're good now, Andy. Go try it out. It's okay. I mean, it's not quite easy to see how TikTok works with these things. Okay, not sure what that means, Apollo. Let me keep going here. Elon. So Elon walked back some of his someone I blocked? Maybe. Interesting. Elon is cutting back on his criticism of Trump. J.D. Vance and Trump's chief of staff called Elon to get him to back off. What's interesting to me is why, right? I mean, to some degree, right? To some degree, I mean, it's very weird. Like if Elon's own people called Elon and said, you got to back off. This is hurting us, Elon, right? And Elon's finally like, all right, I'll apologize. He apologized publicly today. But Trump's people called and begged Elon to apologize, right? That's interesting to me because that's a sign of weakness. That's a sign that the Trump people were scared of this fight. And they were, I mean, they are, and they should be, because honestly, you know, Elon's the richest man in the world. It does not help to have like that battle going on for Republicans. They desperately want Elon's money next time around. But I think if I'm Elon, I'm intrigued that Elon apologized. But I'm also intrigued that Trump, the J.D. Vance and Susie Wiles or whatever, his chief of staff at the White House, kind of had to get on bended knee and go, please apologize. Because that's a sign of weakness from them. So let's see. It's unfortunate because we want them to keep fighting, but nonetheless, very interesting. Tulsi, oh my God, Tulsi freaking Gabbard. I love that. Thank you, Powerful Mind. Thank you, Annie. Tulsi Gabbard did a nuclear war video. She's insane. This woman is our director of national intelligence. Trump made her our top intelligence official at the White House. She compiles all the information from all the intelligence agencies and briefs the president and this kind of crap. She's a very bad person. She was accused by Hillary Clinton of pretty much working for the Kremlin. Let's put it this way. Her views are very Kremlin-esque. She's the one who refused to criticize the dictator Assad in Syria. She refused to call him a dictator. She takes Russia's side in the war in Ukraine. I mean, she's horrific. She's absolutely horrific. But for an American especially, thank you, Marsha, thank you, Tiger, thank you, Laddie, it's pretty scary. Well, Trump, and I mean, the intelligence community doesn't trust her to be a good American. The foreign intelligence community is worried that maybe she works for Russia. I mean, this is like serious concerns about her from these people. Okay. Who knows if she does, but my point is, it is a fact that intelligence agencies are very worried about this woman. Okay. And defense officials. So Trump makes her the top intelligence official at the White House, which means she's going to see everything, which means foreign governments are not going to give us everything because she's going to see it. Well, yesterday she does a video, Tulsi Gabbard, about nuclear war. And it shows pictures of nuclear war. The world's going to be destroyed. And clearly it's about Ukraine. Clearly it's about Russia and how we've got to cave to Russia. Because if we don't cave to Russia, they're going to kill us or something. She, as somebody said, literally, she claimed that, Vault-Tec is real. Vault-Tec is the wonderful, help me out, guys. I even played the computer game. And I've watched the series on Amazon or whatever, which is very good. What's the name? Fallout. Think Manana got it first. Thank you, Manana. Manana beat you, Alec and Osh. You were close. Fallout. Great computer game. Great series on, I think, Amazon Video. I think, if somebody wants to correct me. But part of the thesis is, or whatever, that the ruling class has built subterranean tunnels and homes that they can live in if a nuclear bomb goes off, and they almost want the nuclear bomb to go off because they can start the world all over again or whatever. She made that claim. She said the elites don't care if there's a nuclear war because they and their families will be saved. And you're watching this and going, it's an insane video. Thank you, Amy, for the gift. It's a complete insane video. It's un-American. It's pro-Russian. They're literally Soviet talking points. They're not just Russian talking points. They're Soviet talking points. These are the kind of things you heard out of the communist Soviets. This notion that, and by the way, she was blaming America. She was blaming us. Those elites weren't in Russia that she was talking about, right? The people that she claimed were going to thank you, Stefan. The people that she claimed were going to cause a nuclear war, they weren't in Russia. They were in America. Her video was about blaming America. Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's top intelligence official that he picked. She was blaming America for starting a nuclear war with Russia. Not blaming the Russians, blaming America. I mean, and by the way, it's a bit nutty to be suggesting this week that we're on the brink of a nuclear war. Like, there have been a lot of problems in the relationship with Russia since they invaded Ukraine, but I think probably any of you out there know what I'm talking about. Things right now, much better than they were a year ago or 2 years ago, right? The Russians were threatening to nuke us every day, right? Things have calmed down significantly, I would argue. And those of us who are older, so that's the first point. Like, this week, she decided to say, oh my God, we're about to have a nuclear war? Why? Right? I mean, even Ukraine going after the Russian planes, the Russian response was they launched a lot of missiles and drones, which is what I thought they were going to do at Ukraine, right? But also in history, I saw a big defense expert tweet this morning that, we're at the greatest risk of nuclear war in all of history. Thank you, Gen X. And I wrote him back and I said, that's not true. We were certainly at a greater risk of a nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Absolutely, positively. The Soviets had put missiles on Cuba. We told them to get out. We put a blockade around Cuba, and literally we were going to go to war with the Soviets if they didn't move the missiles. And we were this close to going to war with the Soviets, and finally the Soviets blinked, and we blinked a little too. We did a little taco too. They did a little taco. But the point is, nuclear war almost happened. 1962 or so, October, if I'm correct here. But to say like this week, we're at the greatest risk of nuclear war ever, it's like, why? That's just that just isn't like, it makes no sense. But this is what you say if you're trying to placate the Kremlin. This is what you say if you're working for the Kremlin. This is what you'd say if the Kremlin asked you to say it. I don't know why she said it, but it's really creepy why she said it. Trump is going tonight to a scheduled, or he's going soon to a scheduled performance of Les Miserables at the Kennedy Center, which is our big performing arts center in Washington. Some of the cast members have threatened to boycott, which I think is very funny. Oh, hey, Andy, glad we got you back here. You sent a gift. Thank you, Andy. Sorry, we had a misunderstanding. Glad you're back. Thank you, Gothic. I always like to we let people back because honestly, even if it weren't a mistake, when someone asks politely to come back on the show, we let them back because, I've found over the years, first of all, there's misunderstandings. And also sometimes somebody's just in a bad mood or they get pissed off and, they're good people. So anyway, glad you're back. Gary Powers getting shot down in the U-2 spy plane. Ronald Reagan, there were several incidents there that got a little scary. Actually, we know for a fact that there was a possible nuclear war about to happen with, remember the computer glitch? What was it? I'm going to pull this up. Computer glitch, 1983 or so. Was it on the Russian side or was it at our side? Hold on, let me pull this up. What was the computer glitch in the early 1980s, either on the American side or the Russian side, that falsely suggested a nuclear attack was happening? Tell me about it. This was a wild story. Russian side, Marsha? There were two. I didn't know there were two. There were two false nuclear alerts caused by computer or sensor glitches in the early 1980s, one on the American side in 1980 and one on the Russian side, Soviet side, 1983. Listen to this. 1980 NORAD glitch. A faulty computer chip at the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, caused the system to show a full-scale Soviet missile launch up to 2,200 incoming missiles. I never heard about this one. Oh my God. I've heard about the 1983 one. This one I didn't know about. The U.S. increased alert levels, scrambled bombers, and nuclear command centers were notified. Within minutes, it was determined to be a false alarm, and forces were stood down. Thank you for the fireworks, Exceed. Cause was a malfunctioning 46-cent computer chip in their early warning system. Wow. Oh my God. A faulty 46, less than $1, a computer chip that cost 46 cents malfunctioned and told us that we were being attacked by 2,200 nuclear missiles. I mean, that's insane. That is War Games. Well, War Games was a little different, obviously, but that's the second one, the one I knew about, September 1983. A Soviet early warning satellite system falsely reported a U.S. missile launch, followed by several more. The Soviet protocol called for immediate retaliation. That's what's interesting. So the Soviet protocol was the second you detect a launch, they launch. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, the Soviet officer on duty, chose not to report it as an actual launch, defying protocol. Why he dismissed it? The satellite showed only 5 missiles, which didn't match the logic of a first strike. He expected a full barrage. Ground radar showed no incoming missiles. He suspected it was a false alarm, and he was right. A glare from sunlight reflecting off clouds was misinterpreted by the satellite sensors as missile launches from the U.S. Petrov likely prevented global nuclear war. The incident remained secret until 1998. Petrov was later honored by peace organizations, but reprimanded by Soviet authorities at the time for not logging the incident properly. Wow. I mean, okay, I remember that one being bad, but that's like worse than I remember. The fact that basically he was supposed to launch the missiles immediately. That was the training, and he didn't do it. I mean, that's amazing. Turning my air off here. That is an amazing story. Wow. That first one, though, 2,200 incoming Russian Soviet missiles, according to our computer system. I mean, damn. But this is also why, and you've seen it in the movies too, but it's not a bad idea. You know, we've got enough missiles to respond, and I'm assuming, one hopes, the protocol is to hold off until somebody reports the missiles hitting the ground, and then you fire back. Because basically we've got our sea-based missiles, and our sea-based missiles can cause, actually, let's ask ChatGPT about this one. Let's assume that there's a a first strike by the Russians against the US, it's massive, period. Let's also assume that the US waits until the missiles hit before we retaliate and fire our missiles, period. How much of the US nuclear force would remain, on the ground, but also air-based and sea-based, and if we fired them back, how much of Russia would we destroy? I assume it's enough, but this is an interesting question. Assumption, Russia launches a first strike. Russia targets U.S. ICBM silos, so they target the missiles in the ground. They target strategic bomber bases, so they target the bases the planes are at that will take off to fire cruise missiles. They fire nuclear submarine bases. NATO major command and control centers for NATO. U.S. nuclear triad, what survives? The U.S. nuclear arsenal is divided into three legs. Land-based ICBMs, about 400 Minuteman III missiles in hardened silos in Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming. Silos are designed to withstand nearby blasts, but not direct hits. If Russia strikes first, most land-based ICBMs would be destroyed, assuming accurate targeting and enough warheads. Some could survive if missiles malfunction or due to targeting limitations. Estimated survival rate of our land-based missiles, only 0 to 10%. Air-based bombers, I find this stuff fascinating. Air-based bombers stationed at air bases like Minot, Whiteman, Barksdale, North Dakota, other places there. They are not on 24/7 airborne alert like during the Cold War, but if strategic warning is received even by minutes, some bombers may launch and escape. If missiles hit before takeoff, many bombers would be destroyed on the ground. Estimated survival 0 to 20% depending on warning time. So these are our planes that have nuclear bombs on them, cruise missiles, whatever. Sea-based missiles, the most survivable leg. We have 14 Ohio-class nuclear submarines, each carrying up to 20 Trident sea-launched ballistic missiles, each with 4 to 8 warheads. So that's 20 sea-launched ballistic missiles. We used to call them slickums. Now they're slibums. 20 sea-launched ballistic missiles, each with 48 warheads, meaning you've got 80 to 160 nukes, and that's on each one. So 80 to 160 nukes on each nuclear submarine, and you've got 14 submarines, which gives you 1,200 to, what did I say here? 1,200 to 16. So you've got around 1,200 to maybe 3,000 nukes that would survive on the submarines. If Russia strikes first, submarines are already at sea. Those in port may be destroyed. Estimated survival, 50 to 70% of sea-based warheads, 600 to 900 warheads. Okay. Let us assume the U.S. launches a second strike only after confirming nuclear impacts. Surviving weapons include submarine launch missiles, a few bombers, and maybe a fraction of our ICBMs, which are the land-based missiles. Anybody coming new, we're talking about a scenario where if the Russians were to attack the U.S. with a nuclear attack, and we decided, you know what, we see missiles incoming on the radar, but we don't trust that. We're going to wait until the missiles hit, and then we will respond with our missiles so that we don't accidentally start a nuclear war. So we're looking at ChatGPT analysis of what would be the survivability of America's nuclear missiles if we let the Russians hit us first. Could we actually do a successful counterattack? So here's what ChatGPT concludes. The U.S. launches a second strike, meaning responding to the Russians, only after confirming nuclear impacts. Surviving weapons include submarine-launched missiles, possibly a few bombers, and perhaps a small fraction of land-based missiles, ICBMs. Estimated surviving warheads available for retaliation: sea-launched missiles, 600 to 900 warheads; bombers, 50 to 100 warheads; ICBMs under 40 warheads. That gives us 700 to 1,000 nuclear warheads to respond with to Russia. With 700 to 1,000 U.S. warheads, this is, again, if we let Russia, the idea isn't you let Russia attack you, but if the radar shows a massive Russian attack of nuclear missiles coming at America, do you wait for the missiles to hit to make sure it's not a false alarm, since there have been 2 false alarms in recent history in the 1980s? America had a false alarm. The Russians were sending 2,200 missiles in. Russia had a false alarm that America launched a missile attack. So we're saying, like, let's pretend that the U.S. response is to wait for the Russian missiles to hit. Would we be able to retaliate sufficiently? Okay, 700 to 1,000 U.S. warheads would survive a first Russian attack. The U.S. could obliterate Russian military infrastructure, command centers, missile fields, naval bases, and most major cities. Each warhead is 100 to 475 kilotons, far larger than Hiroshima. Even 100 to 200 warheads, and we would still have 700 to 1,000, but even 100 to 200 warheads detonated over Russian urban centers would kill tens of millions of Russians and render most of Russia's economy and military infrastructure useless. Final conclusion, even after absorbing a full-scale Russian first strike, the U.S. would retain enough nuclear power to annihilate Russia's cities and infrastructure, kill 50 to 100 million people. Keep in mind, there's only 150 million Russians. So we would wipe out 1/3 to 2/3 of the Russian population in our response. And there you go. Oh my. Let me know. Okay, this is turning into war games. Let me know if you'd like a simulated scenario, i.e. city by city impact, or a timeline. Yes to city by city. And hold on. Yes to both city by city and timeline. I may not read it to you, but that's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, that's ChatGPT, but that scenario sound that one of the things you have to do with ChatGPT is look at what it's saying and see if it makes sense. That makes excellent point. Otanbot just raised. UK and France would also join. Now, UK and France have a lot of, actually, the British missiles. Actually, UK and France, most of their missiles are on subs. The British missiles, maybe all of them are on subs. Am I right about this? Help me out, guys. France, I don't know. But that's a really good question. Hold on. What percentage of French and British nuclear missiles are on submarines? All. British, I was thinking all. Almost exclusively on submarine for both. 100% of UK missiles are sub-based. You guys are correct. The UK operates 4 submarines with 1 always at sea on patrol. So the other 3 could be hit potentially. France has a mix, but a majority are at sea. France has 4 nuclear submarines, each armed with ballistic missiles. Air-based component, France maintains air-launched nuclear missiles carried by Rafale fighter jets as well. Okay. Do the scenario above where the Russians attack first and include the Brits and the French too. How much would they have to respond with after a Russian first strike? And what would it do to the Russians along with the American response? Give me the final tally on how it would impact the Russian economy and the people. That's a good point, though, because, right, if they attacked us, the Brits and the French would respond, most likely. And frankly, if the Russians attacked us in a nuclear strike, they would attack France and Britain anyway, because they'd want to try to knock out their weapons first anyway. This is very interesting, actually. I've always assumed this from what I know, that we would have a significant second strike capability. Here we go. Surviving warheads. UK, 120 warheads would survive a Russian first strike. France, 206 warheads would survive a Russian first strike. US, 900 estimated. That brings us to 1,226 warheads. 60% would likely be used on urban centers across Russia. The rest, 491 warheads, would target military bases, military silos, command bunkers, ports, railways, industry. Estimated human cost, estimated fatalities, 183 million. Well, there's only 153 million Russians, so I'm going to say that's everybody. Russia's population is 143 million, so this implies near complete demographic destruction. So once the French and the Brits are included, there are no Russians left. Economic collapse. Russia's GDP, the size of their economy is 1.9 trillion. The estimated destruction will be 1.5 trillion. So that's 75%, 80% of the Russian economy will be destroyed. Yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. This is why I tell you, and actually that's really fascinating. I wonder how TikTok would feel about me doing a video on that. Because it's actually a positive video in a sense, you know what I mean? Of saying this is why it's a bad idea to do this. But I always worry with TikTok, you never know. But that's actually very interesting. This is why I say, whenever people say, oh my God, the Russians are threatening to nuke us. No, they aren't. This is why they won't do it. Because combined with the French and the Brits, we could let the Russians hit us first. We could not even respond. Let the Russians hit us first to make sure they're actually attacking. It's not a computer glitch. And the missiles we'd have surviving would be enough to kill every Russian and destroy 80% of the economy. But also 80% of the economy doesn't really matter if you wipe out every single Russian. That would be a bad thing. And it's why I believe, and I believe the Russian leaders are sane. We don't like them, but they're sane. The Muslims in Russia, they're all gone. Anybody in Russia is gone if war happens. So anyway, but Americans, I thought it told me what percentage of Americans. Did it not? Let me see. And what percentage of Americans would survive the Russian first strike, and what percentage of our economy would survive? Good question, Jeff. I don't recall what it says. This is why I freaking love ChatGPT. Again, you can't trust every answer. You have to, like even this, I'm looking at it and in my head, I'm going, okay, does that make sense? Yeah, that analysis makes sense, right? You have to kind of go through it and think it through. But it's very interesting. I mean, it does things Google can't do. Like Google would have to pull up an essay on this. You know what I mean? It can't. I think it is a solid ballpark, Kronos. I really do. Estimated impact of a Russian first strike. U.S. deaths estimated at 150 million. U.S. survivors 185 million. 55% survival rate. U.S. economy is 27 trillion. 18.9 trillion of the economy would be destroyed. We would only have 30% of our economy left. So that's a big, and no medical care, no food and water, radiation everywhere. It would be bad. It'd be very bad. Now, let me just see what the, I was going to go back to the timeline it was giving me and stuff. Hang on a sec here. Oh, that's scary. Oh, that's interesting. It gave me a timeline. 0 minutes. Russian missiles strike U.S. targets, silos, cities, command centers. 1 minute to 5 minutes. Survivors assess damage. Emergency communications are attempted. 5 minutes to 15 minutes. U.S. National Command Authority, likely a mobile or remote surviving node, confirms nuclear impact and initiates retaliatory orders. 15 minutes to 30 minutes after the Russian strike. Retaliation orders transmitted securely to submarines, possibly airborne bombers. 30 to 60 minutes after Russian strike. U.S. nuclear missiles are launched from submarines at undisclosed locations. 90 to 120 minutes after the Russian strike, submarine-based nuclear missiles reach their targets in Russia, detonating over major cities, military installations, estimated fatalities. 2 to 3 hours after the Russian strike, bomber-launched cruise missiles may arrive if any bombers have survived. 12 to 24 hours, fallout and secondary strikes. Yeah. What did they do here? City by city? Oh, my. Oh, that's wild. It's estimating 2 warheads per city. Half of Moscow would be wiped out. Half of St. Petersburg. All of half of St. Petersburg. Pretty much half of every city is going to get wiped out. Except we know this once the French and the Brits get involved, it'll be even worse. Anyway, scary stuff, but as I said, not really scary stuff. This is why I talk about this stuff. It is important to understand this was the whole basis of U.S. but also Russian nuclear theory back during the Cold War with the Soviet Union. It's called I do this off camera totally, WC. Are you kidding? I spent my entire day on ChatGPT with these kind of things. I love this stuff. I do. I think, meaning I find this stuff fascinating. I find this intellectually fascinating, and it's important too. So yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. But anyway, the nuclear theory. So the nuclear theory with the Soviets, but even today, is called mutual assured destruction, MAD theory, mutual assured destruction, not taco theory, mutual assured destruction. And the idea is we have enough nukes to destroy the Russians. They have enough nukes to destroy us. But also, we have enough nukes to survive if the Russians hit us. And they have enough nukes to survive if we hit them. So that if either of us strikes first, the other one has enough to destroy us. And keep in mind, this analysis from ChatGPT, which I think was pretty spot on, is that even if we let the Russians hit us and we let them hit the Brits, or the Brits decide that, but the Brits let them hit, the French let them hit, the Americans let them hit. Ooh, that was wild. Whoa. Okay, they did it again? Are you kidding me? They did it again? Oh my God, they did it again. They suspended my live access again. What are they doing? Oh my God. Jesus Christ, they did it again. Violent behaviors and criminal activities, hate speech and hate behaviors. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh God. Doing it again. I'm sorry, this is people reporting us. They claim people don't report. This is clearly people reporting us. This is clearly people reporting us. I'm sorry, but that is absolutely what that is. There's no way it's anything else. There's no way it's anything else. Right? It's got to be. It's got to be. I mean, we're talking about, again, because the issue came up about nuclear strike between the US and Russia and what would happen. And again, the best part is they got us when we talked about that's why a nuclear a nuclear war won't happen. Right? That's the part they got upset about. Once we talked about why it wasn't going to happen. I think these people, once again, there's no way that we're not being reported. Absolutely no way we're not being reported. I don't want to go over it because I want to see the appeal, because again, if the appeal gets denied again, then I need to go report it to people again. Oh my God. They drive me crazy with this. Jesus Christ. I mean, they're so, again, though people report stuff, but like the oversensitivity is ridiculous. I mean, you can't have a discussion. I mean, a top American official said that we're at risk of a nuclear war. And the discussion is why we're not going to have a nuclear war. You can't have that discussion. I mean, like literally our discussion was a war won't happen and it's a bad idea for it to happen. You know? I mean, that's the kind of amazing thing. You know, it wasn't like, yay, it was quite the opposite. Well, no, it's not. Of course, it is. It absolutely is people reporting us. By the way, it could be the Russian trolls reporting us. The problem is TikTok always says people reporting you doesn't get you taken down, but it clearly does. I'm sitting. The problem is, well, it takes a few minutes. The problem is, like I said, I think we're going to go through the same bullshit. They're going to ban it. And now it's going to take a while for this to come back. Let me finish with this while we're waiting for this. So the big Trump protest this weekend, no kings, looks like it's getting big. Movement will span over 1,800 cities across 50 states. They're claiming millions of people, but you never know with that, you know. But still, that's very good. God, we didn't even do Ukraine yet. There is a decent amount of Ukraine news. Well, I mean, it's like hate speech and violence. I mean, violence. I mean, is it violence? Top American top White House official said we're at risk of nuclear war. And you're saying in a nuclear war, everybody would die. And that's why it's not going to happen. Nobody is going to do it. The Russians are smart enough not to do it. We're smart enough not to do it. That does not strike me. Live access was restored. Okay. They brought it back. We've reviewed your appeal and restored your access. Okay. Okay. That was good of them. Sometimes I've had them. All right. All right. Let's go back live again. We're back. All right. Jeez. Again, this has got to be the People Report. We're not going to talk about it on TikTok. I mean, somebody, maybe the mods. Let's not talk about it. Hello, we're back. We're back. TikTok had a glitch. It's fine. It's fine. We had a glitch. All is well. We'll wait a minute for the TikTokers to come back. Hello, TikTokers. La, la, la. La, la, la. We're back. La, la. Yes, a glitch. We had a glitch. We're back. Anyway, everybody else gets to sit there on TikTok, YouTube, and Discord. Yeah, anybody wants to go back to, yeah, actually, if you were on TikTok before, go back, because it helps the algorithm to see a lot of people coming back. I think that always helps out. Anyway, sound is better here. It's funny. The sound should be the same everywhere because it's using the same microphone, my good microphone. But for whatever reason, I shouldn't say that. Let me look a second. I need to look at Discord and make sure my Discord microphone is the right microphone. Yeah, it's the right microphone. Okay, it is. It is, it is, it is. Oops. Now I got to figure out how to open this on Discord. There it is. Okay, there you're back. Yeah, it's the same microphone on Discord. So who knows? Who knows? Anyway, we were talking about the King's red. I know red is my color. I wear red. Although I worry now that my hair is going gray, whether the red is still my color. I don't quite know if it is. I don't know. Does that change for people? Like when your hair goes gray, does your favorite color change? Not favorite, but you know what I mean? I never quite know. But red does look good on me for these shows. Thank you. I've always liked red, actually. The thing is, I've always loved red. It's my favorite color. But I found for doing TV, video, or whatever, it's a good color. It's funny. Gray looks good on me. That's funny. I don't wear gray. I wear that gray t-shirt. I feel like gray is kind of you know? No, it's funny. I say this not in a let's talk fashion, but it's one of the things when you do a media show with video, you've got to worry about what you're wearing. And literally, I've got a couple I bought a number of these shirts, and I've got like dark blue, which looks good on me too, black, red. And I try to wear a lot of red t-shirts because you want colors that look good on screen. It's just a thing. It's a thing. It's funny. It's just something. Of course, I don't think Aaron Parnas worries about it, and Aaron has far more followers than I've got. I don't think Aaron stresses about the colors he's wearing, but nonetheless, I like to sort of, no pink. I will not wear pink. I just won't. I don't think pink would look good on me, but I won't wear pink. I've never liked it. I like Aaron. I'm just saying, like, it's funny that I worry about things like this. I don't think Aaron worries about the color of clothing he's wearing, and Aaron has probably 3 times my followers. So maybe I'm doing something wrong doing this, but what do you do? Green, well, let's not do too much of the colors. Green can be an issue because I'm Greek, and green, we can look like, skin like without a tan, like my face is a little more, I wear sunscreen, but my face is a little more tan, but without, like we look kind of green. So wearing green brings out green, which is not a good thing. So yeah, not the Greeks wearing green, Greeks wearing dark blue, and Italians wearing dark blue. Chef's kiss. Anyway. All right. Yeah, we'll have to do another show where you guys give me advice on the fashion thing. Actually, you know what I am going to do? And now I'm going to change the temperature again, and we are just about to shift to Ukraine news. So let's do that next. 1 second here. But yes, thank you, TikTok, for bringing me back. That was very nice. 1 second here. Oh, good. Oh, okay, it's on. Good. I was going to say, it was getting warm in here. All right, Ukraine news. Huge overnight drone strike by the Russians on Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, killed 3 people, injured dozens. The new NATO declaration at the upcoming NATO meeting does not mention Ukraine joining NATO. That is not a surprise. We knew that. It's Trump, obviously. Ukraine returned the bodies of 1,212, Russia has returned the bodies of 1,212 Ukrainian soldiers. That's good. The Ukrainians are threatening at doing more high-profile strikes. Their spokesman said the SBU, which is, I always forget this, the SBU, SBU is the Ukrainian military, right? Help me out here. Or is SBU Ukrainian intelligence? I should know this, and I'm spacing out. GUR is military. Is SBU Ukrainian intelligence, or is SBU the soldiers themselves, the military? There's always a delay when I ask you guys stuff because it takes a second. Is it the military, or is it it's the military? It's not it's the military intelligence. Somebody? I can ask ChatGPT, but the special victims unit, exactly. I know some of you know this. Okay, no one's helping me here. I know some of you know this. I think Intel first. I think Intel. It's the not military Intel, as I recall. Let me see here. I'm asking ChatGPT. Ukraine's Secret Service, officially known as Sluzhba. Is it Sluzhba Bezpeki Ukraini? Ukraine's main domestic intelligence security agency. So yeah, it's their CIA. Yeah. Okay. SBU is CIA. All right. But Ukraine's CIA said the SBU is hitting and will hit Russia where it considers itself unreachable. We are working on new surprises, no less painful than Operation Spiderweb. Spiderweb is the attack on all the Russian bombers that they just did quite successfully. This is interesting. Trump's top military official, uniformed military official. This is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Remember, Trump got rid of the old guy who was doing a good job because he wanted a sycophant. So he appointed the new guy, Dan Kane, that's general, who the general at a hearing with Lindsey Graham, who's Republican senator, who's very supportive of Ukraine, but a little too supportive of Trump. But Graham is still trying to cause Trump a little discomfort on Ukraine, which is good. Graham is pro-Ukraine. Graham, at a hearing he was running, quizzed Trump's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Trump's top uniformed military official, about Putin's aggressive ambitions and whether they extend beyond Ukraine, meaning is he interested in attacking Europe? Let me read you this. Graham says, is Putin going to stop in Ukraine? Graham asked in the hearing of the Senate Appropriations Defense Subcommittee. Kane responds, America's top general, I don't believe so, sir. It's a small answer, but Trump's top general says he doesn't think Putin's going to stop at Ukraine. He thinks Putin's going to go after Europe next. Trump does not like that answer. Trump does not believe that answer. That's very interesting. Hegseth, Trump's Secretary of Defense, gets asked the same question. He says, what do you think, Secretary? Is he going to stop? Hegseth says, it remains to be seen, Senator. That to me is absolutely fascinating. That Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense who's the political appointee, gets asked, is Russia going after Europe next? And says, remains to be seen. Meaning, we don't know. It's not we don't think so. It's maybe. And then the general said more clearly, he thinks, yeah, they are going to go after Europe. That's interesting. That's good. I mean, it's actually very helpful, of course, but that's very good. McConnell, this was good. Oh, this was great for McConnell. So Mitch McConnell used to be the Republican leader in the Senate. He is not anymore, but he was questioning Hegseth, same thing, defense secretary at the same hearing, and says to him, listen to this, McConnell, Republican senator. While McConnell saw the Biden administration efforts in Ukraine as completely inadequate, he wanted to hear more about plans for the future. McConnell said, beating up the past is not a plan. McConnell basically lectured the Trump people and said, all you do when talking about Ukraine and Russia is beat up the Trump administration. You have no plan. That was interesting. He says, numerous allies are contributing to Ukraine's defense and that they look at us and wonder whether we're in the midst of brokering what appears to be allowing the Russians to define victory. McConnell accused the Trump administration of basically handing Ukraine to the Russians, but handing victory to the Russians. Whatever deal we reach is whatever deal Russia wants. Again, nice that he's saying it. The man is also older than dirt and not running for election again. This is typically what happens with the Republicans. They don't run for election again, and then they finally get brave. And for 6 months or 9 months, they take on Trump and then they leave. So still good for him to say it. This last story I thought was interesting from the Kyiv Independent. Nastya Rodionova, a Russian writer and artist who has been based in Paris since 2022, had only met gallery manager Luisa Rozova in passing at events before she learned who the 22-year-old's parents were. Described by a number of people as a very nice and well-mannered girl, Rozova is the daughter of a Russian woman named Svetlana Krivonogik. And according to investigative journalists, she's Vladimir Putin's daughter, the woman working at an art gallery working at art galleries in Paris. After learning about Rozova's family background, Rodionova took to social media to share it, highlighting the fact that the galleries where she works primarily showcase Russian and Ukrainian anti-war art. The post quickly went viral. Reactions were divided. So the story here is this woman, who a lot of people think is Putin's secret daughter, is working at an art gallery in Paris. We already knew she was there. At an art gallery in Paris that highlights the works of Ukrainians and Russians who are anti-war. Interesting. Members of the Russian emigre community are people were divided. Some members of the Russian emigre community argued that she can't control who her parents are and it shouldn't be held against her. Others, and this I thought was interesting, others said it was ethically questionable that a family member of the Kremlin leader worked in an anti-war art gallery as Russia was waging war against Ukraine. And they went one step further. You've got a bunch of Russian refugees in Paris who are hiding out from the Kremlin regime. They are publicly criticizing the Kremlin, known to kill its political opponents in Europe. And they are working with this gallery, letting the gallery know who they are, where they are, showing up at the gallery to give their paintings. And they don't realize that they're giving their personal contact information to Vladimir Putin's daughter. That is, I read that and I went, this is for the Kyiv Independent. I read that and I went, okay, that's an interesting argument, right? Putting aside whether you think she is or isn't to blame for her father, I'm not sure if you're in hiding that you want Vladimir Putin's daughter to be finding out where you live, you know? So I thought that was very interesting. All right, you know what? We've got a minute or two for questions, and then I'm going to call it quits because it's already 7:15. And remember, I'm trying to protect my voice. I am going to go to the doctor next week. I made an appointment just to be safe. But, and I'm trying to breathe as I talk more. I'm doing the little bubble thing with the water. My neighbor taught me. But anyway, so maybe one or two quick comments. WC, I can't repeat what you just wrote because TikTok won't like that. YouTube may not either. Yeah, exactly. No, it's very interesting, very scary stuff. Discord cut out from Anana. Anybody else on Discord? Oh, Doug too? Hang on. Although I'm about to sign off. Is anybody on Discord hearing me? Hold on. Let me just check Discord really quick. Oh, Discord did stop. Oh. Oops. Hold on. That was weird. Okay. That was weird. Oh, it's not going to be able to hear me again. Can you hear me or do I need to leave and come back? Can you guys hear me or not? On TikTok, on YouTube, on Discord? You know what? I'm going to say I'm wrapping up the show anyway. It's 7:15. If you can't hear me, I'm going to sign off on Discord anyway. Let's see if the Discord folks can hear me. Oh, that was interesting. I didn't know it dropped out. Interesting. Oh, it dropped out 10 minutes ago. Sorry, didn't know. All right, the Discord folks are not responding, which means I may just call it quits. Okay. Oh, okay. Jeffrey's weighing in now. Can you guys hear or not? Oh, you can hear. Okay. Yeah. I was just about to sign off anyway because it's 7:15. I didn't know it dropped. Somebody should have told me. Well, we didn't have any mods there at the moment. Yeah. I only looked and saw. It's funny. I kept looking at some of the comments and I only finally saw Manana saying Discord's out. I was like, what? Jeffrey can hear, Doug can't. Okay. I'm signing off. It's 7:15 anyway. All right. All right. Discord, I'm signing off anyway at 7:15. So sorry we got cut off. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. I am disconnecting quietly. All right. Discord. Hold on. All right. Discord is cut off. YouTube, I'm going to sign off. Anyway, thank you guys. Good conversation. We had a little glitch there, but I think it was an important, and to me, that was a fascinating conversation. I don't know if I'm going to do a video on that. I think I could do a YouTube video on it. Would be fascinating. Actually, YouTube video would be fascinating. I don't think TikTok can handle the that video. I don't think so. But I'd like to do one on that ChatGPT analysis because I think it's fascinating. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off so I don't stress the voice. Have a good evening, folks. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, mods. See you all tomorrow. Yeah, YouTube, I think, could handle it. I think YouTube could handle it because we presented as this was exactly the interesting. Maybe I will. Let me see. I don't know. Maybe I will. All right. Have a good night, guys. Good night, YouTube. All right. TikTok, you're next.